Hello and welcome to Buy the Block UK, where we discuss everything real estate and investment and everything in between. On today's episode, I'm here with a good friend of mine, Bolaji, who I've known for a number of years. I know he's been doing things within property, but not just property, finance, and a few other things. The reason why I have him on the show today is I think he has a pretty interesting story that has shown that life can throw you tribulations and challenges, but that doesn't mean that we can't make the best out of these situations that are before us. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Bolaji to you and for him to introduce himself.
Hi, thanks for having me on, Kevin. Yeah, as Kev said, I've known Kev for about 20 years, something like that. Yeah. Really good friends with my younger brother, and I love him to bits. He's a good guy.
Thank you.
Claudia and his children. Bolaji Yoloye is a happily married husband, father of three lovely kids, and property. Always been an interest in property, even as a teenager as well. And life has been very interesting. So from IT, I'm now in financial protection, and if I was in a novel, I'll be in the main character. Life has been very bizarre, to say the least.
Look, there's a reason why you're here today, and thank God that you are. And I've known you from when you were working in finance in the city, when you're working with Murex technology at the time, and you were doing stuff in finance, probably high-powered, very much moved to city at that time. I think at the same time, I remember there was a time when you were working quite a bit abroad. So I've seen you go all around the place. And then for you to now be working in income protection, it sort of had me ask, what has this guy seen or done that has made him want to transition from the world of high finance to now enter the world of protection of income? So you've rightly told me a bit about what you've done in the city and your beginning, but tell me a bit about that journey from city. What were you doing in the city, the nature of your work, and move us forward about what's actually got you into this space of income protection?
So basically, I guess the journey really starts back in 1984 when a young man, 34, he goes on a journey from Lagos to Abeokuta, traveling from here to Watford. He's expecting a fourth child. He owns a VW Bumblebee. So he goes on that journey, but he doesn't quite make it to the end of the journey because there's a car accident. Everyone survives, but he doesn't. And that's how my mother had to bring up 4 kids by herself in Nigeria. And my mom's a hero. So she brought us up, strict disciplinarian, and she decided to bring us to the UK, which was a leap of faith because a lot of people discouraged that. But eventually she brought us here, and that's how it all started. We were all, even then, with my mom showing some entrepreneurial spirit by getting a taxi and then renting it out for a taxi driver to bring some of the money back to pay for the school fees. It was actually the beginning of the clue. Fast forward, I managed to get an engineering degree. Then I do a master's in computer science because I thought this engineering thing is not quite working. And then I became an IT contractor. Again, I've got a wedding to pay for. The budget is 20K. My salary is 40K. You see what happens next. So I became an IT contractor.
Yeah.
And as Kev said, working in Murex, which is used by a lot of big investment banks to manage their trades and risks for big transactions. Did it from 2000 till about 2023, so about 20 years Murex. Yeah, just had 3 kids going to private school as well because I wanted to give them a bigger platform, just like my mom did. She built a platform, and I needed. That was the goal, I think, for any man should be that your kids should surpass what you've achieved. So September 11, 2021, it was a Saturday. I had some errands to run, and it had to do with going to the Nigeria house. There's a father figure of mine who passed away, so I needed to go to represent the household. And I was downstairs by myself, and my daughter was downstairs. Normally, she shouldn't be downstairs. She would be upstairs. So she's downstairs and she sees me grabbing my chest and I'm struggling. And I say I'm going to be fine. So she sees that I'm in distress. So she calls my wife who's upstairs. And again, she's not supposed to be home. She's running late. So the way God works, the coincidences. Anyway, so they call the ambulance because now I'm out on the floor. They call the ambulance. The ambulance is rushing, and one is on the phone to them. And she's having to learn how to do CPR on my chest to keep me breathing. So doing the CPR, by the time she's called my younger brother, Ayo, who lives 15 minutes away, he gets the call. He thinks I'm dead. He shouts, Bolaji, and then he drives to my house and leaves his wife and kids behind. So anyway, the paramedics show up. The first ambulance shows up. The second shows up. The third ambulance shows up. And the whole street is shut down. So my kids had to be escorted next door because as far as they're concerned, Dad is dead on the floor. Paramedics showed up. They pushed the junior doctor aside to take over the situation. And they shocked me 10 times to keep me breathing. They could have stopped after 6 shocks, 7 shocks. With each shock, the chances of survival decreases. I found out on the internet, so which is crazy. But they gave it a shot. And once the shocks happened, they could see I was breathing again. But in that period of time, there had been a lack of oxygen to my brain, about 7 seconds. So each second of lack of oxygenated blood to the brain will destroy brain cells and neurons. They die. But in any case, I was put in an induced coma and rushed to St. Bart's by St. Paul's in central London. So they rush me there, and poor Warner has to make a way there. And she's looking for me all over the place. Then she finds me all strapped up. So I've been put in an induced coma now. And one of the doctors told her, your husband's not going to make it. The chances of someone surviving a cardiac arrest out of hospital is less than 1 in 10. Even if they survive, the damage is irreparable, so to speak. One said, no, we're not going to be switching off any life support machine now. I believe in Jesus Christ, and we are going to fight this. And fortunately, she had a doctor friend who helped to push back on them switching off the life support machine. So I was on life support for 4 weeks at St. Bart's. Gradually, I came to, but I still wasn't there. I had weird hallucinations and things like that. But in the middle of all those hallucinations, there were some things that were crystal clear to me. Where's my money? And where's my lawyer? And I'll be shouting in the middle of the night, where's my money? Because the primal instinct for me was like, my kids and my wife. In Mr. Mobo, you're in a hospital. My full name is Bolaji. He said, Mr. Mobo. So eventually just shouting and stuff like that. But gradually to recognize who Wanu was, who the kids were, stop mixing the names up. It was blocks of memory were beginning to fill in again because there were huge blocks of memory. And in the middle of all that, my younger brother, Bayo, he said, you do know you've got this thing called critical illness cover. What's that? Because in the middle of it, I still didn't know what year it was because I still mix up the year, the dates. But he said, you do know you got this thing called critical illness cover. I was like, no, man, what's that? He said, you've been paying this thing for years now, and now you've had a cardiac arrest. You're eligible to be paid. And it was just amazing because of all the direct debits that I had going off, there were times when I was out of work, but I just consistently kept paying it. That's why I always advise people, the premiums you pay doesn't have to be what you can afford. It's what you're comfortable with. Because this is something that's going to go for the rest of your life. So it doesn't have to be something that every month you're thinking, should I cancel? Should I not? Because when you cancel and you go back, the policy is going to be more expensive. You don't know if you've got a health challenge or whatever. So eventually the cover did pay out, and I didn't work for a year and a half, but the money was enough to keep us afloat. The 3 kids going to private school, still being paid, and we were able to put some money down on a buy-to-let in Salford. And then a few months later, a guy came and said, look, with your story, you could help people to educate themselves and things like that. And eventually praying on it, thinking about it, it just began to make sense to be able to help people and also to advise people that you don't have to be a multimillionaire to leave a large inheritance. A life insurance policy to age 90, which a lot of people don't have. That's all you need, £10, £20. And when you pass away to be with the Lord or whoever it is you believe in, you don't leave behind a large inheritance tax bill to your loved ones or huge liabilities. You leave a policy that's paid out in trust, shielded from the inheritance tax, and which will avoid probate as well, which will go directly to your loved ones as well. So that's what I do now and what I feel God has led me to do.
No. But I think for me, that's extremely important for us to know how you've come from the world of IT and high finance into this space of, to a degree, it's more of a service to the people, because there are a lot of people,
yes, for sure,
who truly look at this and they consider it as an expense or an unnecessary expense to them. People that look at it and think that 30 or 40 pounds, I'm not even sure how much they would be paying, but let's just say £30 a month is just an expense that they can't really see the benefits of. I think, especially for the younger people who think they're going to live forever. When you're young, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you think nothing will ever happen to you. It's only when you get older, you've got people around you who are now getting sick, or people, or you actually experience friends who potentially have heart attacks and die. It's only now that you start to think to yourself and ask yourself, oh, maybe this is something that I need to look at. And the truth of the matter is that tomorrow is never promised, but you do want a situation that your family can maintain the lifestyle that you had actually set for them. As men and as Africans, that is definitely something that we all try and look out for, our legacies and how those are maintained going forward. What I found interesting from your story is it seemed like you weren't even aware that you had insurance. Was it a decision that you made initially to get the insurance out, or was it something like maybe it was part of your employment package that made you pick up the insurances?
I think I've always been a cautious person to start with. I had multiple policies, but this one I remember clearly. I was sitting with my friend. He's like a big brother to me, Bolaji, and the broker, he had a couple of insurance policies, and he said, "Oh, you've got this critical illness cover, almost like an add-on, and why not?" In all fairness, the critical illness cover is usually the most expensive of the lot. But also, a lot of people say, well, it hardly ever pays out. So what I'll say is, when you're signing up for your critical illness cover, make sure you read the conditions and the scenarios that it covers. So a lot of insurance companies will only cover 30 to 40 different scenarios, whereas the company I work for, thankfully, will cover 114 to 174 different health scenarios. And they have an 83% payout with serious illness cover. I think the other thing I'll mention is that with our life cover as well, I've checked it as well, life cover payouts is 96, 97% payout. So if you're filling your policies, be 100% transparent about everything you've done. Even if you smoked a cigarette when you were 5, just put it in there so that your loved one at the night of the payouts.
That's interesting. So transparency is definitely a thing that you have to be. It's definitely something that you need to be when you get yourself involved in anything like that. Did you struggle at all in the case of accessing funds, especially during the time in which, I don't know, you were hospitalized for? How many months were you in hospital for?
So I was in hospital for 5 months in 3 different hospitals.
Wow.
So September till about November, December, I was at St. I still probably wasn't able to clean myself properly, but anyway. And then from November, December till January, I was at Whips Cross. And then to February, I was at Homerton, where the neurological people helped me with my coordination, balance.
Wow.
And then put me to the outreach program to help me with getting back to work.
Okay. Because I mean,
the NHS gets a beating, but when it comes to things like this, they're top notch.
You know what? I cannot even. I think about my situation with my mother, and I'm in exactly the same situation. My understanding of the NHS and respect for the NHS has definitely increased a lot more. Maybe they're not great with the small things, but when it's critical, you do feel like they pull out the stops to make things happen. So let me ask this question. So you're in hospital for 5 months. Obviously, you've got a family, you've got bills and expenses to cover. How did, obviously you had the insurance. How exactly were you able to sustain yourself for that sort of period? And how easy was it for you to actually access funds during that time of illness?
Well, so basically, one who didn't have a live power turned. I thought I'd be smart by giving them all my bank account details and stuff. But when it came to it, she could only withdraw £300 at a time from the cash machine.
Wow.
So she had to borrow stuff. It was a few months later when they just did some basic checks. What year is it? What date is it? Then I could answer what this kind. Then they could allow her to access the savings. We had some buy-to-let properties as well. So some of that income was helping to sustain one as well. So that helped. The clients really pay out about May, June, something like that.
So let me ask this question. So in relation to that situation of the wife not being able to access your bank accounts, would there be anything in hindsight you would have done to have made that process any easier? Is there anything that a person should do if they have a partner or wife in the case where, in the unfortunate case where this sort of situation arises again?
Any priority, it's got to be done. The critical illness was very helpful, but maybe we could have had it linked to our mortgage or something like that, so that if it happened, then our mortgage would have been cleared out immediately.
So that
was something we didn't know about. And then I told people when I was in the hospital and it was cancelled. And when we chased the insurance company, we said, "Why is it cancelled?" Oh, Mr. Yoloye wasn't paying his direct debit. I was like, "Well, how is he going to pay? It was in a coma. How's he going to pay?" I was like, "Wow." Tough. So we lost that policy. What we didn't know was that there's something called a waiver of premium. So I advocate it all the time now. It's maybe £3 or £4 more premium, but if you're well, the working, and then they will suspend the payouts until the situation is resolved, and then you can go back to paying it.
Right.
I think very unique in that in the company I work for.
Right. Okay, that's not something that I would have known or even thought about. But I'm sure what I've learned from your situation is that it never is straightforward, because you never know. Luckily, in your case, you're still here with us. In the case of documentation and where documents are kept, look, it took your brother to be able to say to you that, look, you do have a policy. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have policies and don't even know they've got policies because their documents are all over the place. Is there anything that you would say? You would say when it comes to this sort of thing, you need to make sure that you've got where your documents are, or is there a way to structure?
Be honest, I have no clue how to do. I honestly don't. If you've got it depends on your level of trust, but if you're married or a partner, you got to share everything. Because when I was in the hospital, when I was scrambling around trying to access my laptop, my passwords and things like that, they hacked my laptop. Thank God there was nothing incriminating on the laptop to get that stuff.
That's interesting. Okay, so therefore, it seems like even in the case of, or especially even more so in trying times like this, you definitely need a process or somebody involved during the process to make sure that you have access to all the things that you need. In your case, it was your wife in doing that. So apart from someone you trust and you can work with, what about wills? I'm sure this must have brought into the importance of wills also. Thank God you didn't have to use it, but how organized were you around this piece of your life?
Thank God. It's shocking that quite a lot of people do not have wills at all. It's a crazy stat. I think 65% of the population don't have wills. I need to double check that. With the clients I see now, quite a lot of couples do not have wills at all. And even for me, my will was created before Yoloye was born. And if it all happened, we had to redo the will again, make sure that a trust was set up as well. I can't really speak too much about trust, but do look them up. You got bare trusts and discretionary trusts, and you got flexible lifetime, all kinds of trusts. As long as you get the right advice to shield your assets from when you pass on, and also the right trust is set up in a way that your bloodline is protected. So even if kids married to someone and there's a messy divorce, that person cannot access the property under the trust. And we've seen that in real life. It actually happened within my brother-in-law.
So it's not just critical illness, but it's also the need to look at your will and the structures that you've got around your will. And having a trust is definitely something that you would advocate for in the case of managing your estate. I've heard a lot of people say that they think trusts are more complex, but in my opinion, life is complex.
Especially if you've a net worth over $1 million, for sure.
Okay.
Sorry, Kev, you said you've seen a lot of people saying?
No, I've heard people say that trusts are complex. And so they normally just try and keep it really basic in the case of just having a will and that's it. But then my opinion is life in general is complex. And if you really want to protect your family, you need to start looking at tools that you keep in your arsenal to keep the next generation going, which I think is important.
And avoid the time getting a chunk of what you worked out for.
Exactly. So in relation to what you're doing now, bringing it all the way forward, how exactly are you assisting people in better protecting themselves going forward? Is there an audience that you're looking for? Is there an age group that you would recommend that people start looking into this thing at? What is your plan and structure?
I think for now, so I've sort of just started trying with friends and family, and then really working on LinkedIn as well. I'm trying to, someone explained it almost to me like, you're a physician, you're helping people to see what they need, ask them what they need, and seeing if you could design a solution that will help them as well. Because a lot of people's insurance policy links to engage that they started 20, 30 years ago. So a lot of them are expiring in 4 or 5 years, something like that. A lot of people don't understand that life insurance can also be used as a cheat code for generational wealth. So you don't have to be a multimillionaire to start off with. If for simple 20, 30 pounds a month till age 90, say, you can still have a large inheritance behind. We also have a whole of life policy as well. So even if you live to 100, the payouts will happen because at some point we're all going to pass away to glory. Right. Those premiums are usually a bit more expensive, but if money is no objective, then that's one for you as well. So I'm really passionate about generational wealth because we're missing a trick. We really are.
Yeah. No, I've heard of situations where insurance policies are used for a mass. Well, basically, you're kickstarting the next generation, aren't you, with your departure? But it's about making sure you understand how it works. And I think for a lot of people, that's what it is. They just don't understand it. They don't understand how you're actually going to help the next gen because you're not there.
Because you don't see it as well.
And how it's going to benefit anybody.
I think sometimes that's one thing I found a bit disappointing. I was like, you are reluctant to spend X amount on a policy to give your children a better life, but you're going to spend X amount on a Sky Sports package or Netflix subscription. I've heard stories of people financing their Rolexes. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Well, you won't pay your insurance policy to leave something behind. And the other thing as well, it just came to me as I was thinking about it. A lot of us men, we're gamblers. We just don't know it yet. We're gamblers. We're gambling that we won't die tomorrow. So we'll postpone your paying your insurance or when a good time. As you said earlier, your days are numbered.
Yeah, it's true.
Better now than never.
100%. No, 100%. So if people want to get in contact with you to have a conversation around this kind of thing, how exactly can we do that? I'm sure myself included, there's a lot of people who will be interested in this kind of thing.
To get a conversation with me, the link is below my Calendly link, and you can also connect me on LinkedIn as well. So those are the two avenues that I'll react to quicker.
Okay.
Hopefully with the Calendly link, we book a session. We've got 15-minute sessions if you've got questions about X, Y, Z, and then the 45 minutes is if you know what you want, then we'll set the package. It's a free consultation, and when we arrange the policy, you could choose what day of the month you want the direct debit to come from. And it doesn't have to be on that very same month that we've agreed to the thing. So it can be on the following month as well. Start.
Okay. No, that sounds good. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people that'll be interested in it. It's definitely something that I see as being a positive tool in your arsenal for financial accumulation and generational wealth. So definitely. So I'll put the link anyway. I'll put the link at the bottom of the screen. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, they can contact you on LinkedIn. But it's definitely something that we need to think and consider as individuals and in the community also. So I appreciate you being here and having this conversation.
I think I'll leave this with two. Number one, you don't have to be a wealthy person to leave a wealthy family behind. It's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, in Proverbs, it tells us as well, a wise man leaves a big inheritance to his grandchildren.
That's 100% right. Absolutely. So those are wise words, and people will get in contact with you. Cheers.
Fantastic. Thank you for your real inspiration. Thank you so much.
Great stuff.
Take care. Bye. Yeah, worked in IT for 25 years, something like that. Really passionate about interior design.